Please welcome to the stage Speaker of the House Elijah Haahr, Minority Caucus Leader Representative Crystal Quade, Springfield City Councilman Matthew Simpson, and from the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce, Emily Denniston.
It's a big step down.
Glad that I was last in that introduction. That feels pretty fitting. My name is Emily Denniston, and I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs with the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce. Forgive me, I have had a bit of a cold, so I'm going to do my best not to cough on our elected leaders and get through the panel. So I think Forces Under 40 is really the perfect name for this discussion because we get to visit with three real powerhouses today. So joining me on stage is attorney at Kutak Rock and Speaker of the House, Representative Elijah Haahr, Minority Caucus Leader, Representative Crystal Quade, and Chief Research and Planning Officer with Ozarks Technical Community College and Springfield Zone 4 City Councilman Matthew Simpson. So let's give them another welcome. And I have a lot of notes in my script about how millennials are stepping up to serve, but I know we're a little bit behind and we have a lot to get to, so the gist of it is millennials are stepping up to serve, and I think that evidence is right here on this couch, so I'd like to go ahead and just kind of dive into some questions and hear from these folks. So, Matt, you were 32 when you began serving on Springfield City Council. Crystal, you were 30, and Elijah, you were 29 when you were first elected to the Capitol. So now we do have 6 millennials serving in leadership. So young professionals really are stepping up to serve. But there are a whole bunch of reasons not to do what you all are doing. So, you're putting yourself out there. There's fundraising. There's, not maybe the best pay you could be making. There's time away from family and friends. There's Facebook commenters. So what is greater than all of that? All of those reasons not to, why did you decide to step up and do this? And just start with you.
That is a very loaded question. Ultimately, I decided to run for office much before I actually did. I was actually still a student at Missouri State University when I decided to run for the House of Representatives. I was an intern in Jefferson City, and I believe it was the first or second week I was there, and I had a revelation that a lot of the folks that were in the building at the time did not fully understand from a perspective I thought was important, issues surrounding poverty. And I'm a social worker, and I was a social work student at the time, and I really felt like since social services are such a large part of what state government pays for and the things that they work on, we really needed a perspective in Jefferson City from somebody who really understands that. We have all walks of life, people from lots of different backgrounds. I felt it was important that I had an important perspective as someone who grew up in a low-income family, but also was a social worker and was understanding on a professional level how the systems all intertwine and work together. And so at that point, I decided one day I wanted to do this. Fast forward, ultimately, I decided to run when I did after the SOGI ordinance passed in Springfield. And I had a lot of dear friends and family who, folks I consider family, who were very affected by that. And I wanted to go and fight for them, as well as all the folks of my district.
Mr. Speaker?
I'd like to say that there was some grand revelation I had, but there wasn't. The first campaign I worked on, I was 10 years old. And my parents told me, this was 1992, that George Bush and Dan Quayle were running for re-election, and my brother and I were cutting their pictures out of the newspaper, and we were like riding our bikes up and down the street and hanging them on doors. And so my mom told my dad, she's like, we got to get them involved in a campaign so they can do it the right way. And every 2 years since then, I've actually been working on a campaign. So after I graduated law school and I moved back to Springfield, I was like, at some point, I'd like to run for office and be an opportunity to kind of effectuate public policy. And then when the redistricting happened in December of 2011, I got drawn into a new district, and it was almost like everything came together at once for the opportunity to run. But part of it is, and this is like Crystal, I'm sure like Matt, with your upbringing, my dad owned his own business, and so I used to go work with him in the summers, and I always would see, he talk about he couldn't afford to hire more workers because of the work comps or the regulations, the taxes, and you grow up watching somebody do that and see how government infiltrates every portion of your life, and you realize it doesn't matter about like the time away, it doesn't matter about what you get paid. There's really nothing you can do that'll effectuate someone's life in every way, shape, or form as there is when you are in some sort of public service in that government realm.
So, Councilman, I'm guessing you did it for the money.
Exactly, yeah.
So, council is an entirely volunteer position, so
yes.
You can quote me, Matt Simpson did not do it for the money.
Now, the main reason I did it is because I wanted to be part of a Think Summit, so I can cross that off the list now.
Done.
Aside from that, my dad always had a saying and a lesson for my brother and I growing up that you should always leave the campground cleaner than you found it. And to me, that means no matter where you are, no matter what part of a community, what community you're a part of, you've got a chance to make it better for those around you, and you need to do the best you can to take advantage of those chances. So when the city council vacancy came open last year, it was something where I'm very passionate about. Springfield, grew up here, benefited a lot from the community, and with my background in education and research and perspective as a young professional, I thought I could add and contribute something to the discussion and help make the campground a better place. And I really do believe that we have more opportunity right now for Springfield's future than we may have ever had in the past. And as a quick aside, the two people that I'm getting to sit next to on the couch are a big reason for that. The fact that we have a Speaker of the House and a House Minority Leader who are both young professionals from Springfield, care about our community, are great people, are great partners for the city. We have tremendous opportunity right now, and we are not going to take advantage of that if we all don't work together for that. So I'd encourage everyone here today to think about in the next couple of years what you can do to help proudly tell Springfield's story. Think about how you want that story to be better. Dream big, set big visions, and act to achieve them, because it's going to take all of us to take advantage of these tremendous opportunities that we have in front of us, but I think we can do it.
So I mean it very sincerely when I say thank you all three for your service, because it's hard to find good people who are willing to do this work, and it's hard work, and I think there's a lot of scrutiny and a lot of challenges, but just thank all three of you for your service, because we need people like you with different backgrounds and different ideas coming up and being willing to serve. So we do appreciate it, and our community is better for it with people like you serving and the leadership roles that we're going to talk about here soon. So every one of you has priorities that you're working on for 2019. There's Minority Caucus priorities and Majority Caucus priorities, and Springfield City Council has priorities that you're working on. So if you could touch a little bit on what some of those priorities are for the coming year, I think that would give our group some insight on the types of things that are important to you. We can go backwards this time. We can start with Councilman Simpson.
Big priority for us on council and me personally is workforce development. This is an area where communities across the country are facing issues with the skills gap. Finding enough skilled workers to meet the jobs of today and having the ability to train skilled workers for the jobs of tomorrow. And this is an area where I think Springfield is again uniquely positioned to be a leader. We have OTC, we have Missouri State, we have Drury, we have Evangel, we have a great public school system. We've made the decision as a community to invest in our educational resources. The passage of the tax issue for OTC last year that will allow us to build a Center for Advanced Manufacturing, I think is a great example of that. And this is something where if we can achieve being a national leader in solving the skills gap, it not only helps our community, it positions us to attract employers to this area and to grow as a community, but even more importantly, it transforms individual lives. I get to see, thankfully, every day at OTC the impact that gaining a skill that leads to a quality job has. And not only transforms lives for the individual, it transforms lives usually for their family around them and their friends around them. And so this is something where we have a chance to not only achieve a community goal, but help those in our community that need it break out of the cycle of poverty and get into a better life.
I would just say I got the opportunity to go to a graduation for the OTC nursing program, and I was amazed by how many people there were, not 18, 19, 20, but it was moms and families, and thinking about the work that you're doing, and them having the ability to get that degree, and just knowing that that's going to transform the lives of their families was just really amazing and really powerful to see all the many moms and dads who are graduating with their little kids around them, and that it's going to change their life. So that's awesome.
Well, at the state level, not to echo what Matt said, but also probably echo what the governor said when he was there earlier, obviously workforce development is going to be a big priority this year. this is my 7th year in the legislature, and just in the past few years, last year with all the drama, turbulence that surrounded the legislature, we still had a very successful policy session. We did a lot of stuff in the space of tax reform, utility reform, and things like that. But what it does is essentially allows us to go past those areas and focus on certain specific things. And I think being laser focused on workforce development is one of those things that we get to do at a state level this year. The governor, in the State of the State speech on Wednesday, had 5 very specific policy proposals. Each one of those, he met with us earlier. We've had members of the House pre-file those, and then yesterday, in the first round of bill referrals, I referred each one of those to the Committee on Workforce Development. And so we're really hitting the ground running on that area. And I've said this to a lot of people, we'll do more in the area of workforce development this year than we've probably done in the last 20 years in the state of Missouri. And a lot of the genesis for what Rob Dixon and Governor Parson have proposed come from some of these southern states. A couple years ago, myself, the prior Speaker of the House, the budget chair, we went to Georgia and we looked at what they're doing down there. And if you've ever been to one of these southern states, they started these programs in the 70s and 80s. They're 2 decades ahead of us in what they're doing. But we had the opportunity to be on the Georgia Tech campus and look at these. And a lot of the things that Governor Parson proposed on Wednesday night are ideas that we've taken from Georgia, from Tennessee, from North Carolina, and that we've said, okay, what are these southern and eastern seaboard states doing that we've been behind on? And so we've now got a very specific set of policy proposals. We're going to move those out. My guess is those will be out of the House by early part of February. We're going to be at the front lines of that, and that's probably going to take a lion's share of the work that we do this year.
It's really exciting to hear you talk about workforce development as well, because that's a top priority of the chamber and the business community, and to hear you and the governor's office and Rob Dixon and DED all on the same page, and what Matt was talking about, we feel like it's just an exciting time. So thank you.
Yeah, and I will definitely echo, we are very excited about the conversations around workforce and giving folks skills to find jobs that provide living wages and folks can really support themselves. And on the topic of from the Democratic Caucus side, we will be supporting a lot of that, while also making sure that we're trying to protect and fund other things that we need to have in the spotlight still, particularly things around health care. We've seen cuts to prescription drug coverage and home nursing care for seniors and people with disabilities. There are a lot of things that our caucus really cares about that we would like to see in the limelight too, which is always a hard balance, of course, in a balanced budget state like Missouri. But while we're working on these new initiatives, we're going to really work hard to make sure that those things still stay a priority.
That's awesome, and it's great to hear, ways that you can partner and we can partner as a community here and the different caucuses, which kind of leads me to my next question. So session kicked off last week, and it sounds like the first day of session really turned out to be Springfield Day with the leadership we have here from Southwest Missouri and our Southwest Missouri governor. Could you both talk about kind of what that means for this region to have you in those leadership positions, Speaker?
Sure. So obviously Wednesday last week was a big day. But one of the things about being the Speaker of the House, especially on a legislative year, every 4 years there's a governor's ball. Every 2 years after that there's a legislative ball. It's the opportunity for the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem and the Senate to put their stamp on that. And so we tried to make it Springfield Day. The band that night was the Mixtapes. The Flame and Mother's Brewing were up there with food and drinks. The pastor that did swearing in was from Republic, Missouri. The person who sang the national anthem was from Branson. The judge that swore me in as Speaker was from Lawrence County. Everything about that day was Southwest Missouri. And the point of that, and what I tried to impress upon everybody is, as the first Speaker of the House from Springfield, the whole point of that day was to show the rest of the state why Springfield is, in my opinion, the new up-and-coming economic powerhouse and the value that we bring to the state, and really the trajectory of the entire Southwest Missouri community as it relates to statewide government.
Yeah, it was a really great day, and having both of those businesses in my district made me really proud, too, to be like, hey, 132nd's represented. No, it was a great day, and I will say this from the Democrat side. I'm the only Democrat in the House south of Columbia in the whole state. And so I bring a unique perspective to my caucus members who are from St. Louis, Kansas City, and Columbia, of what life is like outside of the bigger cities. And while Springfield is the third largest city, we're on the cusp of a lot of really big things. A lot of folks in my caucus are not really exposed to the great things that we're doing down here. So I really look at that as an opportunity to talk about the collaborative things we're working on, the great innovative things that are happening down here. So it's really exciting, I think, for all of us to be able to showcase all the great things we're doing.
I think often, Springfield can get left out of the conversation when we have so much to be proud of. And I love that you guys are setting up these questions for me. Thank you for doing it so perfectly. Because our next question, is really about Springfield. Today has been about 417. I think we all love Springfield very much. I went to school out of state, and then I came back. And, at first it was like, this wasn't my plan. I wasn't going to come back to Springfield. And I, got the chance to work at the chamber and really get involved with the community. And now I can't imagine being anywhere else, and I love it here. And we have so much to be proud of, and I think sometimes we forget that or we take it for granted. But in your opinions, what is really exciting about Springfield and 417 right now? What do you feel like we're really on the cusp of?
I'll start again. Happy to. Well, first of all, I graduated from OTC, so obviously when I talk to people about Springfield, I start there because that was a big part of my experience. Was graduating from Ozarks Tech, and especially within the community college realm, all the community colleges got together this year, and the number one thing that they endorse that they're going to ask the legislature for is the Advanced Manufacturing Center at OTC. It's something that a lot of other states have. Every community college or technical college in their state has one, and there aren't any in Missouri. And so just the fact that OTC is now a force within the community college space, but then you go beyond that and you talk about Missouri State and how Missouri State's the only four-year institution that has consistently grown over the last decade in the state of Missouri, and you look at the funding disparity that they have with other schools around the country, and despite that, they have managed to consistently overachieve in this space. It's really a testament to our higher education system. We've got we've obviously got the Springfield Cardinals. We've got a great downtown. There's really a point where you get to you're talking to people and you realize you've just been like wandering on talking about how great Springfield is, and it is. It's one of these, like, what I say is, like, a lot of these areas or these states that you go to, there's always the city or town in the state that everybody's like, well, if you're going to go here, go to this particular area. And so, like, Kansas City would be like, oh, go to the Power and Light District or something like that. Well, in Springfield, I'm just like, our Springfield community, whether you're in downtown Springfield, whether you're on the south side of Springfield, there's something for everybody, and that's what I think makes our community so great. Is it's really a blend of a lot of different geographical areas, a lot of different people, but it's a really cohesive area, and we bring that to the Capitol, and we now have a legislative presence that reflects that, in my opinion.
I'm going to take the first part of your answer and take it back to work, because I think that you made the CAM case, the Center for Advanced Manufacturing case, even better than we do. So we might steal that if that's okay. I think to build on that too, we have the chance with the Center for Advanced Manufacturing and with the Idea Commons project for Missouri State to really create a true kind of innovation district in Springfield, which I'm very excited about. That's something that not only lets us get people connected with the skills to earn a good living, but that's also something that lets us create an atmosphere and a community that creates the jobs of the future here in Springfield, because that's where real economic growth can potentially come if we're able to build that sort of ecosystem in town, and I think we can. Something else I think is very exciting is if you look at any metric of tourism, we continue to kind of shoot through the roof here in Springfield. You look at the airport passed 1 million passengers for the first time last year. Hotel occupancy continues to grow, usually double digits every month. We've got one of the nation's best new attractions, well, the nation's best new attraction in Wonders of Wildlife. I think if we continue to build Springfield, the amenities that make this such a great place to live, it also makes it a great place to visit. We'll continue to increase tourism, and that lets us, that gives us an advantage in talent attraction and retention, because if this is a place that people want to visit, they're a lot more likely to want to live here when we need them for an open position.
And I'll add to that, and we're kind of changing the question to what is so great about Springfield?
That's fine. I like that.
But to add to that, we're also seeing really amazing, innovative things on the healthcare side. When you look at what Jordan Valley Health Clinic is doing with their programming around opioids, there's a phenomenal program around new moms who are addicted to substances, and they're doing some really amazing things that when other reps come here, and particularly when they go to Jordan Valley, they say, "Oh my God, that's amazing! Like, imagine if we had that up in our community." And then we look at, I briefly mentioned it before, but our nonprofit sector collaboration, things like the Northwest Project, these really innovative ideas to solve the problems that we have in Springfield. And what's so unique about us is we partner with the business community, the faith community, and our neighborhoods to find those solutions together. So it's not like the city is simply coming and saying, this is what we're going to do to fix it, or any particular entity. We are working together to come up with these really innovative solutions for things. And I kind of view our job is to see how we can mimic those across the state and make sure that other folks see what's happening here on the array of wonderful things so that we can make Missouri better.
Those were great. 417 and our chamber marketing team, was everybody taking notes on all of the great Springfield things? I love that we have such passionate advocates for Springfield at City Council and in the State House. That's really incredible. My next question might be, I'm really excited to hear what you all have to say. And if you can help us solve this, Matt, I think we can double your City Council salary. I feel really confident about it.
Why not triple it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. You heard it here first. So, with leaders like you, and I think we could just take millennial out of the equation because you're all just strong leaders. But there is a lot of, it doesn't always look like this, and it isn't always like this, and you don't always hear this collaboration. Can be a lot of frustration in politics, and we seem to be dividing a little bit harder as a country, and everybody goes to their corners and digs in. And you two are from different parties, and we've talked a lot today about working together, and you all have a great working relationship. And Springfield City Council is a completely nonpartisan body, so we don't always feel like we can impact what's happening nationally. That can be messy and frustrating. But in your opinion, what can we do? How can we impact things locally? How can we start to change that conversation, change that tone, and move the needle?
I'll start. I think the most important thing is to talk to each other. One of the reasons that I really wanted to run for this position was because the speaker is from Springfield, and I'm from Springfield, and there are no other Democrats anywhere around me. And that's important because, to your point, there is so much divisiveness right now. And on certain issues, we may feel like that should be that way, right? But there is so much that we do in Jefferson City that we agree on. I would say 75% of the things that come through the chamber, you'll see both parties voting for. And to really fix some of the huge divides, it's about getting to know each other and seeing things from a different perspective. There is one representative that when I got there, I'm not going to say his name, but that when I got there, having been involved in politics before, I really knew I was going to absolutely hate this person and not get along with him, and we'd fight all the time. And within a couple of weeks, he was advocating to support a child care bill that I had sponsored and trying to get me millions of dollars to do something that I cared about. And I tell that story because you always have to see it from someone else's perspective. And the only way that we can begin to heal this divide and to get good policy, frankly, is when we listen to each other. And I think that's one of the good things that we have going on here in Springfield is that, I have a respect for the speaker because I know him, I know his kids, I see them, out and about town, and that gives us a platform that may be different for other folks. But it all starts with conversation.
Two-part answer to that. The first thing is that when you get to Jefferson City and you start to work with the other 162 people, you realize how many of them are just genuinely decent human beings that are up there for the right reasons. And we have a uniquely skilled group of legislators from Springfield. Sonia Anderson, who's in leadership, Curtis Trent, who's the chair of the Appropriations Subcommittee for Budget, Craig Fischel, the newest representative from Springfield, he's the vice chair of local government, all positioned uniquely where they can benefit Springfield. And so we've got an especially strong delegations, but it's also reflective of the delegation around the state and how good and decent these people are and the priorities they have. The second part of that is that there are certain issues that transcend partisanship, they transcend a lot of the things we discuss, and part of that is geography. Obviously, the fact that we're going to advocate for Missouri State, for OTC, we're going to advocate for the issues that the Springfield Chamber wants. We're going to advocate for things that Southwest Missouri wants, tourism in Branson, transportation and infrastructure because of the Joplin and trucking. All of those things come from an area beyond just the partisanship that you develop as you grow up. They come from the geography that you're born into. And so I think those are the things that help us have those conversations. conversations in the legislature.
I couldn't agree more with both answers, especially the importance of talking and having those conversations. And I think with that too, finding in council kind of the nonpartisan environment, a lot of it helps that if you start those conversations with shared goals, rather than specifically how to get there. Because typically when you look at divisions, it's not that we disagree on where we want to go, it's that we disagree on how to get there. So if you look at the members of council, we don't always agree on the best way to accomplish something, but we've all got shared goals. We all want to reduce poverty in Springfield. We all want to promote workforce development. We all want to make Springfield a better place to live, as best a community as it can be. We all want the Chiefs to win on Sunday. So there's a lot of common ground, and that's true in the state legislature, I think, as well. That's true, I think, if you get to talk with anybody. And so if you can start from that common ground, start with understanding that you're both good people who want to get to the same place, and then figure out the best way to get there in a way that treats each other with kindness and respect, you're going to get the best outcomes from that, rather than starting with this is how I know we should do this, and this is the only outcome I'm going to accept.
Those were all fantastic answers, and I think with leaders like you and having that mindset, I have a lot of hope for where we're going, as a community and more, because it is absolutely important that we listen to one another and respect one another, and somehow we forget to do that, kind of those basic be nice on the playground kind of things. So thank you for your thoughtful answers on that. On a little bit more of a personal level, I know all three of you are parents, and the work you do probably takes you away from your kids and your families more than any of you would like, but I know it's important to you. What do you hope that your kids take away from the work you're doing now and the sacrifice that you're making now?
Selfishly for me, one of my motivations for serving is that I'd like my son Daniel, he'll be 3 at the end of this month. I want to support him in whatever decisions he makes as far as what to do and where to live, but I want to do my best to make Springfield the place he chooses to live. So there's a selfish motivation for me.
That's okay. That's a good one. That's a good selfish reason.
Thanks. And I think too it helps being able to involve him, taking him to things. He's got to help me cut ribbons on a couple of parks, which is pretty neat. Mayors are huge deals in children's books. I don't know if any of you have read children's books recently, but go back and look at them. Mayors are the big deal. And so the fact that I get to talk with the mayor raises my esteem in his eyes by quite a bit. So that helps too. But I think that by doing that, he's able to get a greater sense of place, kind of connection to the community, and see that it doesn't have to. Again, it doesn't have to be the same way that I do it, but there are always ways that you can give back to others. And if you're in a position where you can give back, you should be doing that. And I hope that that's what he's taking away from it. And I hope that also it'll lead to him choosing to stay in Springfield when he grows up.
What I got from that is that Matt Simpson is running for mayor against Ken McClure. That's the takeaway. Please tweet that.
That is not the takeaway.
Don't put that on Twitter.
In much the same vein, I've got a 7-year-old boy, I've got a 6-year-old daughter, I've got identical 4-year-old twin daughters, and so, obviously traveling up to Jefferson City 4.5 months a year, and then all the time that you campaign outside of that, there's a significant amount of time away from them. But there's an opportunity for them. Last week when I got sworn in as Speaker of the House, my oldest son and daughter got to stand there and hold the Bible while I got sworn in. And then as you come down front, there's an escort committee that brings you down, and I was the last person on there. And so I get to my son, and he's like, "Dad, why is everybody shaking my hand?" Those are things that he's brought up multiple times since then, that he will remember in 20 years, the experiences that are kind of unique, that most kids don't get to have. And so that's kind of on the periphery of the fun things now. My hope is that in 10 or 15 or 20 years, when they get to do things, I remember a few years ago there was a legislator who filed a bill that would allow a company like Uber to practice all around the state. Uber was like, "We're not going to come in. We want to fight with every city council in the state. So if there's one statewide framework, then we'll come in." And so the representative that sponsored it, I remember talking to him, and I said, the next 20 years, every time you walk out of a restaurant and order an Uber, if you're with your wife, if you're with your child or your grandchild, you could be like, because I spent 2 or 4 or 6 years in the legislature, we get to order this Uber. Those are opportunities that you have, that you can see and you can feel and you can touch. That nobody else gets to do that type of thing. It's an incredible experience, and it's something that they get to see and they get to understand what that opportunity meant for you and what it will mean for them.
Yeah, those are all great things, and the opportunities that your kids get, while we're away from them, they do get to do a lot of really neat things. For me, I will add to that, being a woman in politics obviously is not as prevalent as I would like. We have 41 women in the House of Representatives out of 163. And there are only 7 states in the union who have more women in leadership than we do in Missouri. And so there's a long way to go still. And I have 3 kids, 2 of which are girls, but for all of my children, it's really important for me that they get to see me do this. They get to see me have interviews. They get to see me stand up there with a bunch of men and have these conversations and have an equal seat at the table. And that for me is hugely important and a big motivator for what I do every day, because my son gets to see women who aren't scared and who are being respected, and then my girls get to see somebody who's not afraid to stand up for what they believe in, and that's hugely important. I will add to that, though, we work in the most beautiful building in the country. I don't know if anyone in this room has not gone to the Capitol. You really need to. It is absolutely stunning. And there's nothing cooler than seeing your 4-year-old run down the hallways of that building and talk about, she calls it the tall, tall building, and count the bears on the wall. It's a really neat experience that we get to have, and it is hard. It's really hard to be gone from your kids. FaceTime helps a lot, but ultimately I do think it's worth it.
So those are really incredible experiences and memories and things you're creating for your children. And I can't believe that we're out of time, but that feels like a really high note to end on, although I feel like I could spend a lot more time because you guys have been a great panel. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for the example you're setting for your kids and others, and just for working together and representing Springfield, because it's so important, and you all do a great job. So could you help me thank our panel?